Good morning, my neighbors. Top of the morning to you guys. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. The weekend is upon us. Oh, it is so much fun to watch history in the making right in front of us. And it's really exciting to find out which people are upset that the 20 rebel House Republicans are not backing Kevin McCarthy. It's really exciting to see the 20 really stand firm in what they want. And moreover, it's pissing off all of the right people. So we're going to get into that today. Also, we're going to get into the fact that school boards out here on Long Island are rip-roaring. They're ready to go. We're going to be kicking off the school board election season for anybody who wants to get involved in that. Some of the school boards are starting to see the light that we've been trying to shine upon them for the last 2 years. I was very proud of my hometown school board of Lindenhurst letting Kathy Hochul know that certain things will not be tolerated. So we're going to get into that at the end of the show. But before we get started, guys, head on over to loudmajorityus.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out the shop. Never miss out on anything we got going on. We got a big things coming up for you today. Make sure if you're on Rumble, you smash that Rumble button. Share this URL across all your platforms. If you're on Facebook, hit that like button. Tag your friends in the show so that they can get a little bit of a different opinion on what is happening with the House of Representatives. Because me as a history guy, we Sean and I always talk about how we wanted to do a segment on this show called This Day in American History. Needless to say, today we won't be doing that. But this is history in the making here, okay? It is not very often that you get to see an event take place. An event take place that your children will read, or your children or your grandchildren will read about in future history textbooks. This is something that will go down in history. Usually when that happens, it involves death or some sort of destruction, some sort of catastrophe. But this is watching our constitutional republic work. This is watching what our founding fathers have built and left to us to protect. As Benjamin Franklin said, I give you a republic if you can keep it. This is watching that happen. And we're going to get into how some of the media feels about that in just a minute, because I think it's very funny that some people in the media are not overly thrilled that some Republicans are having a voice, so much so that MSNBC has found a very strange bedfellow when trying to attack Lauren Boebert. But obviously, the top of the news here, House adjourns for this from the Daily Wire. House adjourns for the night after Speaker race reaches double-digit ballots for the first time since the Civil War. The House adjourned last night, Thursday, after 11 votes across the 3 days failed to elect the Speaker. It is the first time since the Civil War that the lower chamber has conducted double-digit ballots. It is interesting to know that when we talk about how Democrats always march in lockstep with each other, how they never break rank, how Republicans do break rank. Some people will say that shows that our party isn't unified. No, what that shows to me is that we have free thinkers in our party. We have people who are willing to not accept the status quo. You guys remember when the Squad came in, AOC and Omar and Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley and Camille Jayapal, they all came in and they said things are going to change. Things are going to change. They're going to change real quick. Well, I got news for you. Nancy Pelosi was elected Speaker on the first ballot 8 consecutive times. So for all their bluster and all their talk and all their Instagram videos, it turns out they just fall in line like the rest of the hacks. But back to the Daily Wire. Though the GOP won a majority in the 2022 midterm elections, House Republican leader Speaker McCarthy so far has failed to break the deadlock posed by as many as 20 Republican members elect, a sufficient number to deny him the speakership. Still, there are signs deals are in the works. The House is ready to get back Friday at noon in Washington, D.C., not since the 36th Congress, which stretched from 1859 through 1861, had there been a number of votes in double digits during the drawn-out process. William Bennington of New Jersey emerged victorious after 44 votes. The most votes ever taken was 133 back during the 34th Congress, from 1855 to 1857. That process took nearly 2 months and 133 rounds. So anybody who thinks this is ending anytime soon, I got news for you. It's not going to happen. The final tally for the fifth ballot of the day was 212 votes for Hakeem Jeffries of New York, 200 votes for McCarthy, 12 for Byron Donald, 7 for Kevin Hearn of Oklahoma, 1 for Donald Trump. We'll get to that in a minute. And Victoria Sparks of Indiana, who voted for McCarthy on Tuesday but voted present Wednesday and Thursday. Sparks indicated she plans to continue voting president until clear progress is made towards finding a candidate who can win the majority. Now, before we get into more of this article, I just want to be clear. Matt Gaetz, my buddy, Matty Ice, Florida's 1st congressional district. Hell yeah, man. The look. You know what the best part about it is knowing how much everyone in the House on both sides hates Donald Trump. The fact that his name is going to continuously be called out in the congressional record just makes me smile. Just makes me smile. Watching everyone's. I remember watching. I was watching it all live yesterday, and when Gaetz called out Donald Trump's name, I remember sitting there, going, "He didn't just do that, did he?" We were looking around at the screen, going, "Wait, is this happening?" No, it turns out Matt's just having himself some fun right now. He's spitting it right back in these people's faces. And that's what has to happen because, frankly, when you look at the way the American people feel about Speaker McCarthy, the way they feel about the establishment, people do not want it. And it doesn't matter to me that 200 members of the Republican caucus want Kevin McCarthy. What does the base want? What does the base want? There was a poll on one of Elon Musk's tweets, and I don't go by Twitter polls because that stuff's always kind of useless. I think it's interesting to see when it's close, but it was like 90-10 with like 250,000 votes cast in this random Twitter poll about whether or not Speaker McCarthy should, or whether or not Kevin McCarthy should be Speaker. 90-10 against. No one wants this guy, and there's a reason for that. There was a recent favorability rating for U.S. politicians. Joe Biden at 43% favorable, 51% unfavorable. Wow, all right, so he's 3 points in the water. That's pretty bad. Now you get all the way to the bottom of the list, and you see Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell. 2 from the bottom. McCarthy is third last. Mitch McConnell is the last. Mitch McConnell has a 23% favorability rating and a 56% unfavorability rating. That's 33% underwater. That's the spread on his favorability rating is higher than his favorability rating. Now let's go to Kevin McCarthy. 23% favorability to 39% unfavorable. That's unbelievable. A 16-point drop-off. A 16-point spread. Nobody wants Kevin McCarthy. The base doesn't want Kevin McCarthy. The MAGA crowd does not want Kevin McCarthy. But, unfortunately, as we've seen over the course of the last couple of years, the people that we send down to Washington, D.C. either don't understand the people who sent them there, are cowards, or just went down there to go along to get along. Now, you guys know where I stand on that. Judging by what the Long Island 4 has done, really, you guys are stepping up big. It drives me nuts when I look at our 4 congressmen from Long Island because they could have been great. They could have went down to Congress and said, guys, do you realize that the 4 of us, if we stand united, couldn't get anything we want passed in Congress? Anything we want. We hold the key. The Long Island 4 could have been president of the United States in all but name. Nothing passes unless we say so. All they would have had to do was find one friend. And I'm sure they could have found that friend in a Matt Gaetz and a Lauren Boebert and an Andy Biggs and an Andy Harris. They chose not to. They chose to go down there and have their lips surgically attached to the ass of the machine. And that's what happens. And I'm sure, particularly if you're watching this from Long Island, if you go through your Facebook feeds, if you go through your Twitters, and you see the people involved in politics here locally on Long Island, I'm sure it'll be all the same people that are sitting there going, why aren't they just picking Kevin McCarthy? Why aren't they just falling in line? It's the same people that have never, ever stepped out and thought for themselves. And on some level, I feel bad for those people. I feel bad for the followers out there. I feel bad for the people who, and look, I'm sure there are some people out there who want Kevin McCarthy for a good reason. And I'm sure you have your reasons for that. Maybe you just want what you see as a clown show to be over. And I can totally understand that. It's time to get to the business of Congress. However, it's important to understand the reason why Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert and Andy Biggs and Byron Donalds are doing this is because they know that no matter what sort of America First policy, no matter what center-right policy they put forth, it's going to die in the Senate. It's going to die in the Senate, and Joe Biden will never sign it. So when you're seeing things online that say, oh, Kevin McCarthy has agreed to everything they want. He's agreed to their border policy. It's never going to go anywhere. He's agreed to their balanced budget amendments. It's never going to go anywhere. Because once it hits the Senate, it's going to be torn up. Chuck Schumer's not going to give them what they want. And even if Chuck Schumer did give them what they want, and we had a couple crossovers like Joe Manchin, like Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Biden's not going to sign it. So what are we doing here? The biggest thing, the biggest concession so far that we have seen is the appropriations bills process. Let me explain that to you guys. We talked about it a little bit on the show yesterday. Basically what happens is I believe there are 11 appropriations bills for the different ventures that Congress has to fund throughout the year. What we used to do in this country is we would vote 11 times. Instead, they consolidated all of it into what we now call the omnibus spending package. So basically, that is a way to get the budget passed without anybody complaining. And the reason for that is once you put these ridiculous earmarks into these bills, into these appropriations bills to get funded through the NIH, through the NIAID, through all these alphabet organizations that Anthony Fauci runs, that the CDC, 87,000 IRS agents. If you don't like one provision of a 40,000-page bill, you have to vote yes. Because there's so many provisions in there that you do want. They tie military spending to whether or not we are going to fund a study to watch drunk squirrels have sex. That's real. Was it drunk squirrels having sex or was it drunk parrots? Whatever, one way or the other. There was one study they wanted to do to see what the withdrawal effects were on giving steroids to hamsters. Is that information you need to know? It's not information I need to know. What they do is they tie Ukraine funding to our military budget or to our Social Security funding, things that we need. That way, if you vote against Ukraine funding, oh, really? You're voting against funding Social Security for the next year? And that's the game that they play. So right now, we're going to have 11 votes on the appropriations bills. And that is a good thing. That is a good first start in a way to get a balanced budget for the American people. Because right now, $32 trillion in debt, there is no possible way we as a nation will ever be able to start paying that back. The only way we can do it now is by lowering the spending, possibly raising taxes, and trying to get a little bit more on these interest payments. Because right now, the American government has one of the most incredible credit systems I can imagine. Imagine you want all these glorious things in your life, and you've got your credit card, and there you are with your credit card. You're coming up on your limit, $10,000 limit, $15,000 limit, $20,000 limit, whatever it may be, and you're getting real close to that limit. And you have the ability to call Visa, call American Express, call MasterCard, and go, yeah, you know what, why don't you just add $10,000 to my limit? But, sir, are you going to be able to pay that back? That's okay. We'll worry about that later on. That's what the American government does. So when you hear arguments about the debt ceiling, remember, it's not sealing like sealing a bag. It's debt ceiling, to see how much debt we as Americans can take on through our appropriations process. That is the key to what's going on here in America right now. Because as far as I'm concerned, America continues to raise the debt ceiling and continues to take out the debt. What we should be doing is cutting spending. We should be cutting spending. That has to happen all across the federal government. Because if we don't, people are only going to continue to add on to this debt. And a lot of it happens with a lot of the organizations in the government. See, if you get a $100 million budget, we'll use a round number, $100 million, and you don't spend that $100 million over the course of the year, You don't get it in the next budget. So, towards the end of the year, if you've ever worked in government, you would know that people end up buying a whole shitload of stationery. They end up buying, legal pads and pens and Post-it notes. We've all heard the story back in the Reagan days of a $30,000 hammer or a $50,000 toilet seat. That's because these entities need to spend the money that is appropriated to them. Personally, I believe that if these entities wanted to, they should be given an incentive to save money, to cut spending. There is no reason why you should have to spend the money you have. The government is not in the business of making money. And because the government is not, they either take out more debt from China, so you don't have to print money. You can just add a zero or add $100 billion on to the national debt. It becomes incredibly easy. It becomes incredibly easy to sit there and just raise the debt. And this is one of the biggest things that the House Freedom Caucus is pushing for right now. Let's see. Where is that Daily article? There we go, the Daily Wire. But back to the Daily Wire article. Trump, who is running his third campaign for president, endorsed McCarthy for speaker and has encouraged Republicans to rally behind his man. But in a Truth Social post Thursday evening, Trump shared a photoshopped image of him sticking his tongue out in the Speaker of the House's chair next to Vice President Kamala Harris and behind President Biden, as if he were to be there during the State of the Union address. Which, look, and this is why I love this guy, because he's just having himself a little bit of fun with what's happening right now. Kevin Hearn has also been nominated. He's a Republican from Oklahoma. He's a businessman turned politician. He has voted for McCarthy despite receiving votes for Speaker from other people. The situation is also similar when it comes to holdout votes for Jim Jordan on Tuesday, but Jordan kept voting for McCarthy, even nominating McCarthy on one of the ballots. McCarthy lost one vote starting in the third round Thursday. That is because Ken Buck, the Republican of Colorado, left for a medical appointment. So, there we go. We were trying to figure out where that vote went yesterday, and it turns out Ken Buck from Colorado wasn't going to be there. That's according to Chad Pergram over at Fox News. But Buck may be back Friday, so it seems as though McCarthy will go back up to 201 votes with the 20 still holding out. Now, the title of the show is, he is the weakest leader in American history. The weakest leader in American history. Even if he wins, what has he shown? He has shown that he is incapable of deal-making. And that's all the Speaker of the House is supposed to do, is make deals. Historically, that's what it's been until the likes of someone like Newt Gingrich came in 1995, and he basically told Democrats, I'm not passing a single piece of your agenda, and we're going to pump through all these Republican things. The Speaker of the House, when you have a 5-seat majority, has got to make deals. He's got to make deals to get things done. There are Democrats out there who want things that Republicans would like. For example, there is a Democrat from California named Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna is an interesting guy. If you watch Fox News, he's on there a lot. He represents Silicon Valley. He's an interesting guy. He is economically an absolute socialist. However, he is in the realm of someone who believes that big tech needs to be curtailed. Their censorship policy is not allowed. If you remember from the Twitter files, Ro Khanna was the congressman who reached out to Twitter and was like, hey guys, I think you guys are breaking the law here. You might want to chill out a little bit. He has his own caucus. Kevin McCarthy could reach out to them and go, what do you want? Give me your votes and I'll get you something. He could do that. If Kevin McCarthy has 200 votes, he only needs if he has 201 votes, he only needs 17 Democrats. Kevin McCarthy is this great man who can do all these great things, but he can't find 17 votes. And it's important to understand something else. Kevin McCarthy is in a lot of trouble because even though he's losing 20 votes, there are at least 3 people out of that 20 that are never voting for Kevin McCarthy, just out of principle. They'd vote for anybody else. Anybody else out of the 221 Republican members of Congress. But Kevin McCarthy's ego will not allow him to do this. You need to understand, Kevin McCarthy has wanted to be Speaker for almost a decade. He ran against Paul Ryan moving into the Tea Party wave. He was beaten by Paul Ryan. He has wanted this for so long that he's never going to give it up. And it's important to understand, if you were to appoint as Speaker a Steve Scalise of Louisiana, and Elise Stefanik of upstate New York, nothing would change. You would get the exact same sort of policies with Kevin McCarthy in the background pulling the strings. But he won't, because he wants the title. Do you know how dangerous it is when people do things for titles? That means that they have no real backbone for the stuff that they believe in. They're just going along to get along. I've said it all the time, and I'll say it again. I respect a Bernie Sanders a hell of a lot more than I respect some of these Republican politicians who lick their finger, stick it up in the air, and try to figure out which way the wind blows. Because Bernie Sanders, while he's an old kook, while he's an old communist, he believes what he believes. He believes it on Monday. He believes it on Wednesday. He believes it on his birthday, on Jesus' birthday. He believes it every single day of the week. That is, why do you think the two most popular politicians in America on their prospective sides are Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, and Bernie Sanders? Because everyone knows that those people believe what they believe. They're going to be themselves, and they're going to be their perfect, imperfect selves. I hate Bernie Sanders. I think that everything he believes is incorrect. I believe that if he were ever put in charge of anything, the country would hasten their demise. But that's why people on the left love Bernie Sanders the way we love people like Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. That's incredibly important to understand, because a lot of these people have absolutely no moral standing whatsoever. Before we jump into the next article, guys, if you're on Facebook, make sure you smash that like button. Tag some of your friends. If you want, hit those little three dots. Invite some people to like the page so that they can join in on the loud majority movement. If you're on Rumble, make sure you smash that Rumble button. Share the URL out across all of your platforms. If you want, follow me on Twitter. Kevin_Smith45 on Twitter. I've been blasting out some memes, having some fun with this whole calamity. I've been doing it all week. So if you guys want to laugh your asses off, head on over to Twitter at Kevin_Smith45. This is an interesting article. This is a very interesting article, because I'm not going to lie to you. When Dan Crenshaw first came into office, I had high hopes for him. I had some real high hopes for him. You know, he got made fun of on Saturday Night Live. Then he went on and he broke balls with Pete Davidson. He had a good laugh. He showed that it's okay to be insulted but not be offended. He went on The View and he had a reasonable conversation with those 5 crackpots on that show. He had a reasonable conversation with them. He said, just because... He said, you have to choose to be offended. And I thought that the left was actually going to learn something from what Dan Crenshaw had put forth. But, alas, he sucks. Oh, does he suck. This from AmericanMilitaryNews.com. Rep. Dan Crenshaw calls McCarthy opponents terrorists. Terrorists, which is incredibly interesting coming from a former Navy SEAL. That is not a word these guys throw around all that often. Because they know what terrorist is. They know what terrorists can accomplish. They know what they did to terrorists. Dan Crenshaw's entire life has been about killing terrorists. Thus, if we use the transitive property there, does that mean that he wants bad things to happen to someone like Matt Gaetz or Lauren Boebert? I don't know. All I know is that if you've watched Dan Crenshaw in any interview over the last 3 days, that man is pissed. Oh, is that man pissed off? But this back to AmericanMilitaryNews.com. Rep. Dan Crenshaw, Republican of Texas, called a group of his party colleagues terrorists and children for repeatedly blocking Rep. Kevin McCarthy's election to Speaker of the House, a barrier to getting the new Congress in gear. That hasn't happened in a century, Crenshaw said. Look, you pushed us into a corner, Crenshaw said, of the Republican holdouts on the Guy Benson show. So now we're saying we won't vote for anyone but Kevin. That's why we're saying it, because we cannot let terrorists win. Real nice, Dan, over there, looking like a pirate. McCarthy's election as Speaker was long anticipated, long before the new Congress convened this week, but a small, stubborn group of his party has withheld the votes he needs to win across 6 consecutive times across 2 days. Thank you for the spelling errors in this article. The The group of more than a dozen holdouts includes representatives with long-time grievances, as well as newly elected freshman senator who can't even be sworn in until the speaker is elected. And those are the ones that I am the most proud of. The freshmen who have went in and said, "Look, I'm here to make a splash. I'm here to. I am here. I was sent here to change the game. I will not vote for the status quo. I will not vote for Kevin McCarthy. I do not like him on a train. I do not like him on a plane. I will not vote for Kevin McCarthy." I'm talking about Anna Paulina Luna. Young girl. I think she's in her 30s. She's about my age. Went down there and said, "Nope. We're not playing this game. We are not. I was sent here to switch. I was sent to Congress to change things up, and that's exactly what I'm doing." This back to the article. "It's like playing with children," Crenshaw said. "I mean, it's very difficult to understand what it is they want. Why don't you try talking to them? How about that? Instead of just falling in line so that you can keep insider trading," Dan Crenshaw. Because, look, Nancy Pelosi has amassed a fortune over her time in Congress, which, due to her very unique stock trades. If anybody's looking for good stock tips, all you got to do is go on Twitter and follow Nancy Pelosi Stock Trader, and you will know everything before it happens. But Nancy Pelosi has been there my entire life. So at least she's spent 30 years illegally and immorally amassing a fortune. Dan Crenshaw did. I think he's like the 5th richest member of Congress, his wealth has amassed more than anyone else in Congress in the time that he's been there. He's relatively new. He's only been there for a term or two. So how the hell did he amass this sort of fortune when he spent his entire life in the military? And we know people in the military are not paid what they deserve. So I want to know how Dan Crenshaw is able to do that. This back to the interview. Interviewing Crenshaw between two votes, Benson, that's Guy Benson, raised concerns that that this is getting visceral and personal, which might make it even harder to get out of this quagmire. Crenshaw explained that he called holdouts terrorists as a figure of speech. "I've already been attacked by them because I've used harsh language." And I'm like, "You started this fight," he said. "If you don't want to get into the octagon and get punched in the face, then don't get into the octagon. That's how I feel." Wow, Dan. Real tough. Real tough talking shit in front of a camera, which, in fairness, I'm fully aware of the irony of the statement of me saying that right now, considering currently I am talking shit in front of a camera. But you could go up to these people and say, what is it that you want? What do you want? Andy Biggs is from Texas, I believe. So I'm sure Dan Crenshaw must be able to have something in common with Andy Biggs. Why won't he go? Why won't any of these people broach some of these 20 members and ask them what it is that they want? They won't, because you need to understand something. There are probably very, very few people who went into this fight in Congress saying, "Yes, I love Kevin McCarthy. He's such a great guy. He's going to do such great things for us." A lot of the people in Congress either voted for McCarthy because they just want to be put on the committees they want. They're afraid of a primary. They have no other options. No one is gung-ho. No one is sitting there going, "Yes, Kevin McCarthy, the savior of the Republican Party." Nobody is sitting there thinking that. Nobody's thinking that. Or they're in some sort of leadership position, and they want to keep their leadership position, whether that's a Stefanik or Steve Scalise or even Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan, I'm sure, wants to be the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and that is one of the most powerful committees there are in the entire House. I think it's time for Kevin McCarthy to start doling out some of these committee assignments and putting people that are going to actually make a difference at the head of some of these committees. I'm talking about appropriations. I'm talking about the Rules Committee, which it's really funny because if you look in the Constitution, there is really not a set out way that Congress is supposed to operate. It very much ebbs and flows with the incoming Congress. And that's why the Rules Committee is so important, because the Rules Committee, as the name would suggest, puts forth rules for all the other committees. How many people are on each committee? How many votes they would need? How many people on each on the Democratic side get involved in these committees? The Rules Committee is incredibly more important than a lot of people would think. So I think that there probably is a deal to be made with some of these people, but I do believe that some of the holdouts, Andy Biggs, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Byron Donald, the Never Kevin people, guys, I don't look. I full disclosure, I know Matt Gaetz. I would consider him a friend. He doesn't bluff. He's not messing around here. This is not some kind of a game that he is just fooling around to have a little bit of fun. I know he said he nominated Donald Trump yesterday to have a little bit of fun. But if you think that there is anything that Kevin McCarthy could offer Matt Gaetz to vote for him, I don't know what that is. I genuinely do not know what that is. We could be here for a while. And I'm totally okay with that. I am totally okay with the fact that right now the Congress is not getting its intelligence briefings. I'm very okay with the fact that Congress is not sitting around voting to send more of our money to Ukraine. I am very happy at the fact that right now the American government has drowned to a halt. Has come to a complete and utter halt. I'm excited about it because, frankly, has anybody noticed a difference? Has anybody noticed a difference? Really? What is different about your life this week than it was last week? Nothing. And that is the big secret to an overreaching federal government. The overreaching federal government doesn't want you to know that we don't need you. We don't need you in our lives. We do not need you to tell us how to live. And there's a reason for that, because we have state governments to do that. And that was supposed to be the point of the state governments. They called state government, some people refer to state governments as the laboratory of democracy. And I'm okay with that. I am okay with state governments being the ones with the most power. Because quite frankly, maybe this is the arrogant New Yorker in me, but if I'm not living up to the standards of a Democrat from Denver, I don't really care. If you're a good old boy from Alabama, do you really care what a senator from Chicago thinks? No, because that's not your life. Just as if you're from Chicago, I bet you don't want some good old boy making decisions for you. And that is the way the American system is supposed to be set up. That is the way this is supposed to be. Every state has different rules for different reasons. The problem is when you have overreaching Democrats, as we have now, throughout this country, who believe that Texas should be like California. Texas doesn't want to be California, but California wants Texas to be California. That's why you see idiots like Gavin Newsom trying to stop people from California from even flying into Florida to visit their relatives. Because no, you shouldn't be doing business with these people. They're not like us. Where DeSantis goes, oh yeah, if you want to go to California, have a good time. It's not up to me. Do whatever the hell you want to do. That is the problem with some of these Democrats, and that's why none of them will break ranks. But the fact that Kevin McCarthy hasn't even broached the subject with some of the middle-of-the-road Democrats, like a Ro Khanna of California, like an Abigail Spanberger of Virginia. Abigail Spanberger is an interesting case because she's the one who had that leaked audio that told the rest of the Democratic Party, hey guys, this defund the police thing, you're killing us out here. You are killing us out here. How hard would it be for Kevin McCarthy to go up, and look, I don't believe he should do this. I don't want him to do this, but if he had any sense, if he had any sort of deal-making ability, how hard would it be for him to go to Hakeem Jeffries and go, I'll tell you what, there's about 19 different committees, I believe. I think it's 19 committees. I'll give you 4 chairmen. You give me my votes. How hard would that be? Of course, he'd have to give up the 4 big ones. He'd have to give up appropriations, budgeting, rules, and the judiciary. But there are deals out there to be made. That is what politics is. I spoke to somebody on the phone yesterday that if the Long Island Four had wanted to, they could have done their major campaign promise with this process happening right now. But they won't, for 2 reasons: incompetence or cowardice. I'm not going to tell them what they could do, because quite frankly, with the exception of 2 of them, I don't really like them. They could have done their big campaign promise, but alas, either their staff wasn't smart enough to come up with it, or they didn't have the stones to pull it off. And it's interesting to see how the media is treating some of these holdouts. Moreover, how the media is treating the people who aren't holding out. So this back from the Daily Wire. Get real. MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle wants to know why Lauren Boebert can't be more like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh, look at that. It turns out, like always, when you do what the left wants, you become their friend. Why can't she be more like Marjorie Taylor Greene? MSNBC host Stephanie Ruhle asked Lauren Boebert why she couldn't be more like her colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene during Wednesday's evening appearance of the 11th hour. Ruhle spoke with Boebert about the ongoing internal battle among Republicans who support Kevin McCarthy in his bid to become the next Speaker of the House and those who do not. Boebert, who is among the 30, obviously, thus far, who has refused to put their support behind McCarthy and has made it clear that she does not intend to change her position unless McCarthy is willing to move on a few key changes. Let's see. While the fight has, while the fight has only been front and center for the last couple of days, Boebert said that there were a number of Republicans who have raised concerns about McCarthy way back in the summer. No shit. We've been talking about this for months. The McStablishment needs to go. McDaniel, McCarthy, McConnell. They all got to go. All three of them. The vote for the new RNC chairperson comes up in a couple weeks. Guys, if you can, please write your emails, call your committee people, let them know that we want Harmeet Dillon. We do not want Ronna McDaniel. We do not want to read another waste report next year about how she spent $30,000 on candles and diffusers. If you guys go back in the show, I don't even know what the hell a diffuser is, but we spent $30,000 on it. We spent like $100,000 on flowers. We don't need flowers. Flowers are the dumbest gift on planet Earth. You know what flowers are for? Flowers are to get husbands out of trouble that they just recently got themselves into. That is the only reason people sell flowers, okay? Only reason. But back to the article. According to her, Kevin McCarthy had ignored their concerns. Go figure. She went on to explain that the California congressman had enjoyed the party's support in part because he had helped raise millions in pursuit of what he expected to be a red wave in the November midterm elections. But he failed to deliver that, Boebert pointed out. And when he realized that he actually needed our votes, that's when he started entertaining some of the proposals that we had to the rules and the way things function here in Washington, D.C. I don't want to hear from anybody who is annoyed that this is happening in D.C. How many of you have said D.C. is broken? Nothing happens. It doesn't do what the people want. Well, this is how we change that. This is how we change that. Through this fight, through this process. And nothing worth doing in life has ever been easy. And this process is not going to be easy. I do not believe that Boebert and Gates will change their minds. I don't think Andy Biggs will change his mind. I do not think Byron Donald will change his mind. That means McCarthy has one vote to play with. One vote to play with, because every time these House votes come up, and I'm sure you guys have learned a lot about the Speaker vote over the last couple of days, as soon as that little ticker hits 5, the rest of the votes don't even matter. Because McCarthy can't win. And the Democrats are not going to switch sides, because Democrats fall in line like the sheep that they are, like the rhinos that we have in this party, who have never thought for themselves, who have never had an inkling of self-worth, who just sit back and wait to be told what to do like sheep. And I'm not saying that the parties, that the national parties, they give us great candidates sometimes. But if you agree with anyone, with any entity, 100% of the time, that's not free thinking. That's propaganda. That is sheeply behavior. To never disagree, ever, to never raise an objection, ever. Why would you do that? Why be a part of an organization that you don't get to have a say in? Which is why what we do here at the Loud Majority has worked so well, because every one of you watching this knows right now, particularly if you're from Long Island, that if you got something to say to us, you can just call us, text us. You know where the office is. Come on by. Everyone's got my number. Hell, if the last 3 weeks has shown that, people have no problem saying their feelings online. So you know what? If you are not allowed to speak out against people for fear of retribution, for fear of losing your job, and then claim that that institution has loyalty, no, that's fear. Fear is not loyalty. Scaring people into doing what you want them to do is not leadership. That is tyrannical authoritarianism. And we can't have that anymore. And that is why Matt Gaetz can't stop. That's why Lauren Boebert cannot stop. That is why Byron Donalds cannot stop. By the way, Byron Donald, New Yorker, baby. Born in Flatbush. That's why he's got that attitude on him, and I like it. I like it a lot. Let me get back to this real quick. So, Stephanie Rule over on MSNBC wants to know why Lauren Boebert can't be more like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why she can't be more like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Have you ever heard MSNBC speak good of Marjorie Taylor Greene? Hell, Fox and Newsmax tend to have a problem with Marjorie Taylor Greene. But because she's doing exactly what the left wants her to do. Like she's falling in line. And look, I get why Marjorie Tayller Greene's doing it. And I don't want to hear that she's a rhino, that she's a traitor. No. She was denied committee assignments under the Pelosi House regime. So basically, for the last 2 years, she showed up to work every day and didn't get to do anything as a punishment for some of the things that she said in the past. McCarthy has promised to put her on good committees because she's incredibly intelligent. She's a successful businesswoman, and she's a fighter. I understand why she's doing it. What I don't understand is why the people who have nothing to lose are not siding with the Freedom Caucus. There are so many people in that House of Representatives who are never going to lose their seat. They're never going to lose a primary. They've got enough money to last them to run campaigns until the end of time, and I want to know why they won't do it. Hell, Lauren Boebert has the most to lose in this whole debacle. Let me look up her recent election. I know that Lauren Boebert was the absolute last person, was the last race they called in this entire election cycle. The last person because they had to go to 2 recounts. Lauren Boebert won her district by 546 votes. 546 votes throughout the entire western side of Colorado. So don't tell me that these people don't have something to lose because Lauren Boebert may not win next time. That's why she's putting her cards on the table right now. And I respect that a hell of a lot more than some of these people that just want to sit there for life. They want to be in Congress for life and do absolutely nothing. I respect that a hell of a lot more than somebody who's saying, I'm going to win re-election every time, walking away, and the only way I'm leaving the House of Representatives and this cushy-ass job is feet first in a pine box. That is not the way this was supposed to be. Kevin McCarthy, you want some votes? Let's put some congressional term limits up on the ballot. But Kevin McCarthy can't do that. Why can't Kevin McCarthy do that? Because if he did that, he'd be termed out in 2 years. And then all this work he did would be gone. Congressional term limits. I don't even care how much the term limits are. You want to make it 10 terms? Spend 20 years in Congress? Something. That would be good. Because not for nothing, when every time I hear the left talk about how the House of Representatives is only represented by old white men, I was like, oh, get the hell out of here. You don't know, that's just you playing identity politics. Not going to lie to you. Every time they panned around that room yesterday, it was a whole shitload of old white men, I'll tell you that. Real old white people. And I don't care about them being old or men or white. What I care about is the fact that this House of Representatives will not innovate. It will not move forward. How can a representative body, whether it is the House or the Senate, represent people correctly in times that they don't understand? Look, I don't expect 90-year-olds out there to understand the complexity of Twitter algorithms. However, Anna Paulina Luna, who's in her 30s, she gets it. Matt Gaetz, who's just over 40, gets it. Lauren Boebert, I think Lauren Boebert's in her 30s, she gets it. We need youth to explain to some of these old-timers how Facebook works. Because I got news for you, Facebook is not just a book of faces. All right? It is a complex technological innovation that has changed the world. And maybe it didn't start out that way, but that's why we need young blood. We need young blood in this game. The only problem with that is, as we saw here on Long Island, the only way to get elected to this place is either through the genetic lottery of your family or stick around for so long that it's your turn. I hate that crap. It's my turn. It's not how things work in this country. The best candidate should win. The best candidate should win. Regardless, bullshit aside. Open primary season. That's what I'd call for in every county across this entire island. Every county across the island, across the state, across the country. Let the best person win. Instead, it's the backroom deals. And it's, cigar smoke filling the air and scotch all over the place. That's how these things get decided. And that's why nothing changes. Because anybody with the balls enough to step out of the mainstream, to step out against the orthodoxy, to try to break the machine, never gets the opportunity to get to the point where they can actually make the change. When I was up in Albany working for a state senator, you should have seen the roboticness of the way some of those people operated up there. And they were nobodies. At least if you're in Congress, you can become a celebrity. You can get a job at CNN like Adam Kinzinger when he puts on a show and cries like a little baby bitch boy on the January 6th committee. At least he got something out of it. You can go get a job with Raytheon. In so many of these legislatures, these people, they sit back and they are afraid to pop their head out because they don't want to either be called a name or because they don't want to be threatened by the establishment. They don't want to be the only one standing out there. But if this instance has proved anything in the House of Representatives, it is that if you poke your neck out, people will follow you. People will follow you. And I want to be very clear to my Long Island 4 here. To my Long Island 4. If you stick your neck out, even if we have fought in the past, if you stick your neck out, and you know what? I'm throwing down the gauntlet right here to the 4. You stick your neck out and you vote against McCarthy, I will back you in the next election cycle. I will do everything we can to help you get elected. You'll get no bullshit out of me because at least you tried. At least you tried. At least you were the man in the arena. The man who dared to make a difference. Instead, what are we going to get? We're going to get a whole lot of nothing. As usual. A lot of campaign promises that will amount to jack shit. Because people want to keep their spot. And that's it. That's the whole thing. Alrighty, guys, we're about to wrap up here. I wanted to get to what was going on with the school boards here on Long Island, but we had to talk about history and explain the appropriations process. I will say that school board meetings, now that Christmas has been over, are starting to kick up again. I've been to a couple across the island over the last couple of days. I will continue to go to school boards across the island, unlike some of the people that like to run their mouth about me on Facebook, who, have you seen any of them recently, by the way? Have they popped their head out? Or are they just keyboard warriors talking shit? By the way, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to keep doing what we've been doing. We're going to keep flipping school boards. We've got county legislator races coming up. We've got a county executive race coming up. The county legislature race is across 2 different counties. And over the course of the next couple of months, we're going to be bringing on as many people into that chair right there who and I don't even want to say have the courage to come on this show. Because guess what? If you've watched these interviews we laugh. We have a good time. Come on. But many won't. Many won't. And I'm going to tell you why they won't. Because they're told not to. I don't mind people who are morally weak. I do mind people who are cowards. And on that note, guys, we're going to wrap up here. But on the way out, make sure you smash that Rumble button. Share this URL across all your platforms. Hit that like button if you're on Facebook. Tag your friends in the comments. Make sure you hit those little 3 dots. Invite your friends to like the page, guys. Also, if you wouldn't mind, shoot us a message on the Facebook, on the Instagram, on the Twitter, whichever page you can, about when your upcoming school board meeting is on Long Island, and we will try to get to it. Obviously, we can't put out where we're going to be because there are crazy people out there who want to kill us, which, and that list is growing more and more every day. And every time another person goes on that list, I kind of like it. So keep doing that because the more haters I get, the more I know I'm doing something right. So I want to thank you guys. As always, make sure you head on over to loudmajorityus.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out the shop so you never miss out on anything we've got going on. Big things are coming for 2023 as we roll in to 2024, and we'll see what happens next. So, guys, as always, do me a favor, guys, and make sure you stay loud.